I've tried to make it look like I was suffocating like 4 or 5 different times now, and all I've done is make myself look like a jackass. So, we're just gonna start the video. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 5th installment of Young James Does Death Metal. For all 4 or 5 of you out there that are watching, I'm sure you're glad to have me back. First off, I'm trying something new here to get my audio a little bit better, so I don't know if this camera angle and this mic angle is going to work better, but that's what I'm going for with this, so hopefully this turns out okay. Now, I know it's been some time since I've uploaded again, and that was because I was actually prepping to be on another episode of Into the Combine. They gave me about 3 black metal songs to listen to, which of course was about 6.5 hours worth of music to prepare for. It was a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to actually link that episode of Into the Combine down in the description of this video. Now, I'm sure everybody that's watching this series of videos, all 7 of you, listened to Into the Combine already, but I'm still going to put it down there in case some of you don't know. And then, of course, right after that, we had Thanksgiving last week, and I had to go home and spend time with my family. Just kidding, Mom. I love you. And so that took up some time. Plus, I've been trying to catch up with end-of-the-year stuff and get my end-of-the-year list prepared. Not that anybody's going to give a fuck about that, but it's just been kind of busy, and so that's why it took me so long to get to this next episode. I will do a recap on the next episode, but for now, we're just going to get straight to it. This week, I was graced with listening to Suffocation's Effigy of the Forgotten, and it was fucking awesome. So let's just get right down to it. I did a shitload of driving listening to this album. That's basically the only time I listened to it was while I was driving, because like I said, of the holidays and everything like that, I did a lot of traveling. What beer am I drinking? A nice, tasty Coors Banquet. Probably my favorite beer ever, if I'm going to be honest. And if I had to describe this album in a few words, it's fucking brutal. So, my general thoughts on it. When I think of death metal, this is exactly what I think of. Like, it embodies everything that I think of when I hear the word death metal. It's got the Cookie Monster vocals. It's got the dirty sounding guitar. It's got a little bit of everything as far as the riffing goes. It's got, not great production, but not bad production. I mean, this, like, if I were to define death metal, I would show someone this album. And that's exactly what it made me think of the entire time I was listening to. It was like, this is fucking death metal. I absolutely fucking loved it. It was right up there with Dismember. I think I might like the Dismember album just a tiny bit more, but honestly, it doesn't make a big difference at all. I'm going to listen to both of these albums again, so it's really a moot point. Were there breakdowns? There were fucking breakdowns in this album. I think this is the first album on the list that was true death metal that had true breakdowns. And that's just kind of surprising to me, because I think the Obituary and the Dismember albums kind of had semblances of, like, breakdowns. But this fucker actually slows shit down and has breakdowns. And it just kind of gets my mind wondering about, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm used to breakdowns in all the core music I listen to. And so I'm just kind of curious as to, did breakdowns in, metal and breakdowns in core kind of grow parallel to each other? Or was there a perpendicular point where one picked it up off the other and started incorporating it? Maybe I'm thinking too deep into this, but it just kind of makes me wonder. I'm used to breakdowns in core music, and when I think of true death metal, I guess I don't really think of breakdowns all that much. But I guess then there's shit like Dying Fetus, I guess. So maybe that's a stupid point. But I was surprised that there was this many breakdowns in, like, a legitimate death metal album. And I fucking loved it, obviously. Coming from a hardcore background, as stupid as it may be to some people, I dig a nasty breakdown. I feel like I say this a lot, but the drums are superb yet again in this album. They sound good. The drummer's super tight. They're super well mixed. The drummer does like these like double or triplet kicks in some of the riffs that just sound fucking disgusting. And I mean, every time those would come on, I was just like, oh my fucking god, that just sounded nasty. And then, you know, the guitars are just a lot more chuggy and dirty sounding than some of the other albums on this list. I was just really surprised at how chuggy it got in some spots. And the solos, there's a couple solos on the album that sound really, really dirty. I thought it was a really dirty sounding album. My favorite song off of it is Seeds of the Suffering. And the reason being is because I think it kind of encapsulates everything that's on this album. It has the blast beats, it has the fast riffs, it has the slow grooves, it has a breakdown, I think it has a solo, and it's just a joy to listen to from one end to the other. Honorable mention songs, Liege of Inveracity, I don't know how the fuck to say that. It's the opening song, and it's a great opening song. It starts out with like a nasty, nasty blast beat, and then I think it has the best breakdown of the album at the end. And a couple others, Reincremation, Effigy of the Forgotten, which is the title track, and then Jesus Wept, which is the closing song. I thought it ended on a really strong note. And that's kind of something that, as a core listener, it almost seems like a lot of core bands, hardcore not so much, but metalcore for sure, take the last song as an opportunity to play something slow or something shitty, and it kind of bugs me. And that's one thing that I like about a lot of these death metal albums that I'm listening to, is they go balls to the wall from the first song to the last song, with a few exceptions. But overall, I like how they don't let the last song be just some shitty outro song. They actually, you know, keep the rhythm of the album going until the very end. So like I said, this album matches Dismember for me. I fucking loved it, and I'm gonna come back to this album, and same with Dismember. So the three things that I always talk about, first is production. The guitar tone is a little bit worse than the Dismember album, but still a lot better than Obituary's The Incomplete. I thought the guitars were just a little bit quiet and a little bit too fuzzy. And if you guys can't tell, guitar tone and guitar sound and guitar riffs really matter to me a lot. And that's one thing that I've noticed is, as I've gone deeper into death metal, I still can't find myself getting over some of the, you know, crappier guitar tones that are on some of these albums. I still like really desire to have a solid and clean guitar tone, which is totally from all the slew of new hardcore and metalcore bands that have just crystal clear production. And so I don't know if it's just going to take more time for me to get my ear used to listening to dirtier sounding death metal, or if I'll ever be able to get over it. It's hard saying. But the vocals and the drums sit just right, and the toms and the kick drums have just this massive thud to them, and they sound really fucking bananas. I thought they just sounded crushing every time I could hear the kick or the toms come in. So I like that a lot. The second thing I talk about is song structure. And it's weird. The best way I can describe how they structure their songs in the album is just, it's violent. It's just constantly going from blast beats to grooves to fast riffs. It never lets up. It never stays in one place too long, but it stays in place long enough to where you latch on to a riff or a certain part, and then it moves on to the next thing after you've kind of gotten a grasp of it. And I thought it was just kind of completely chaotic at times, but in a good way. Not as much as Dismember, but still kind of in that same vein of just kind of going all over the place, but still grounded in keeping you, you know, you still understand what's going on. So the last thing are the vocals, and it took 5 albums to get there on this list, but these are like the most stereotypical type of death metal vocals that you can find. Are they great vocals? Honestly, no. I'm not saying they don't take talent or skill, but they don't sound good. but they sound awesome, if you know what I mean. And that's what I fucking love about it, is the vocals are fucking awesome. For if you're in the mindset of listening to death metal, these vocals are fucking brilliant. So I can't remember if, I'm pretty sure I gave Dismember a 9.5, and I'd have to give this album a 9.5 as well, because I found myself enjoying it just as much as the Dismember album. I think I've said that a billion times by now, but that's just kind of what I go back to. Dismember so far has been my favorite, and this lives right up to what Dismember has in my mind right now. It's hitting the spot for more extreme forms of music, which I'm getting into more now. I mean, fuck, I just listened to black metal a couple weeks ago, and, normally I wouldn't do that at all. I can tell my tastes are starting to change, and I'm starting to understand and appreciate death metal. Before I started doing this list, I would hear a death metal album that came out, or another extreme album that came out that year, and I would listen to it, and most times I'd go, oh yeah, that's cool, I appreciate that. Sometimes they might make my top 20 album of the year or whatever, but I never really would go back to it more than once or twice, and then I was kind of over it, Whereas now I'm listening to stuff like Mammoth Grinder and Tomb Mold, and they both dropped great albums this year, and I actually find myself listening to those albums repeatedly, and that's just something that I didn't used to do. So this list and these albums are definitely swinging me down, the swaying me in a certain direction towards appreciating this music more, and that was the entire goal, right? So good job to End of the Combine. That is Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten on Young James Does Death Metal, and I'm excited to hear what's next. So with all that being said, you guys stay young, and you guys stay metal.